Alright, welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings here in Mendham. So, there's probably one or two, 10, 12, who knows, extra viewers, because Amanda did a interview on a channel called Soft White Underbelly, which really should be called Trainwreck, or, it should be something like Freak Show, whatever. Let's go find the wretched refuse, and talk about life. And it'll just be from their personal point of view. Not much big philosophy involved. But anyway, so he's branching out from Trainwreck to what wrecks trains, I guess. People who, you might say, maybe even to people who actually are pulling some of these strings, in terms of their ideology and what they finance and, how the world works. How much of our culture is being controlled by commerce and money and the interests they have and all of that crap. But anyway, and that's something he's trying to get away from, which is sort of the irony. The guy who runs who is the channel, is basically, somebody kind of running from being a slave to, the corporation tit kind of thing. And, but in a way, I don't know if he's really... I don't know if he's making any counter statement that's worth making, in the sense that I don't think it's just a statement about broken. It's not a statement about fixing. I guess that would be putting it simply. So anyway, so it is kind of unfortunate that it is, the subject is freaky. It's not that it's real, and that's sort of annoying. But anyway, it's still exposure, and it's still an audience. Now, again, if you're here because of some indirect reference to me made, then I'd have to wonder, why? Why were you there? Would be what I would ask. Is why would you find it interesting to watch a channel essentially devoted to, let's interview the losers, the people who didn't win, who aren't playing a very good game, and see what insight you're going to get into anything, except to say something like, well, they probably shouldn't have been born. I mean, it just seems like the logical answer. They would have been better off not having hatched on the edge of a cliff. And that would be the simple statement. But isn't the more complex statement, well, maybe we should prevent that from happening a second time or a third time or forever. Maybe we should actually do something to prevent the train wrecks, instead of just accepting them as part of the fun, of going to the park, is you get to see a few trains wreck. You get to see some reality. I suppose I just popped into my head. I remember in the 8th grade, it was this tradition, that the 8th grade class had to raise money, so we had to have a fair first to raise money, and then we take this stupid trip to Washington. And it's not a stupid trip, but I mean, it's a crappy long bus ride. Which I don't like, buses. You stop at Big Boys. Is that like a restaurant? Some kind of, you're eating this shit food. It's just, just was kind of, even back then, before I became a real vegetarian, I really wasn't much of a hamburger kind of person. But anyway, but I remember, we made this trip. Nixon was in the White House, I believe. And they were having a 21-gun cannon salute for some dignitary from some dopey country. And so, that's sort of interesting. And you're sort of, the lawn of the Washington Monument, and you have the White House and cannons, and there's a derelict, a drunk, passed out in the lawn, and another drunk comes over and steals his shit. And so this is what I'm watching, as this is going on. And, it was just one of those little moments, where it's all this manicured grass, all this, all this bullshit. And, there's this big hunk of poo sitting on the lawn. And just giving you the idea that, wow, this really isn't working. So anyway, that's just it's a minor little piece of stuff that sits in your brain when you just sit there and watch that kind of shit right in front of your face, and you're just like, oh, fuck. Anyway, so now I'm distracted. So anyway, Amanda did an interview on this channel. He just basically did the outline of what's the subject, and oh, isn't that interesting? You don't think living things should be alive? Okay, isn't that dramatic? Blah 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 blah. But she made, she did a good job of defending the basic philosophy, the understanding that if you don't make a mess, you don't have to clean up a mess. Can't say she used that exact phrase, but you know what I mean. The basic argument was made. And she seemed relaxed and confident and comfortable, and that was all great. So it was good, very good. Can't think of much you would fix. So she was herself, and I don't know what the right term is, not proud, but just I'm ready, bring it on. Anyway, and so that was good, and so win, and we'll see if it how much exposure it requires, or where exposure needs to take place, or whether it does anything to change the atmosphere at all, or who gets where the conversation is made, whether it elevates to other levels of being part of the cultural conversation as a real issue and a real subject, is to just analyze whether the game itself is broken and whether there is any real hope of fixing it in any manner that could matter. This is sort of, to me, it's a kind of a non-starter, in the sense that you should be able to figure out that no, there really isn't. Just like the idea of, let's say the Earth was in big trouble and it was going to die, like that stupid Interstellar movie, that there'd be any practical way that you could transport billions of humans somewhere. They wouldn't be able to go anywhere. And so you're left with just reseeding some other planet with a bunch of morons. They're not going to be you. I mean, I can't even imagine investing in the idea of, let's go plant humans somewhere. Why the fuck would I pay for that? I mean, what's my interest? Okay, on any level. I just can't imagine what my interest would be. Especially when, I know they're not going to send me or something that represents me in any way. It's all going to be thems, No, I don't really have a personal interest in that. I mean, I can't come up with a personal interest. And philosophically, I can't. Where's it go? I don't think humans are really great things. Tigers are pretty interesting, but humans aren't. I mean, lots of other creatures are so much more functional and beautiful and well built and all of those kind of things compared to humans. I mean, I'd vote to send them first, but I'm not going to vote to send any, because there's no reason to send any. There's no reason to do it. Kind of thing. So anyway, I guess I should get to playing the video. So I made a video with that as a background. I didn't play her video because it's only 26 minutes or so. So I did link it on the website. So it does have a little icon here that'll take you to her interview video. If you can see that, who knows? The way the web works now, it's just so disappointing. All the browsers are fucked up again, and it's all this fake security thing. Even websites that don't have any commerce on them and don't have anything on them all have to be encrypted now. It's just too ridiculous. There's nothing to steal here, and I'm not stealing anything. I'm not following you. I'm not watching you. It's just well, whatever. It's all turned to shit. Shitternet. Anyway, but you don't want to talk about that. You're not interested in fixing the internet. Nobody's interested in fixing anything. They're just interested in complaining. And that's sort of what's been made quite apparent over the years. So anyway, get to business. Alright, I have to check the volume, I believe. It's probably okay. Well, I'll play with it just so I get to do something. Alright. Oh, we don't need the beginning. Beginnings are boring. And then they want to celebrate being who they are and where they're from. It doesn't make any sense at all. So I'm making a crack at the foreigners, and the fact that they really aren't assimilating. I mean, I see it every day. They're not even obligating their kids to speak English. It's 30 years ago they did that. There's plenty of people who have immigrant parents and they grew up here in America, and their parents required them to speak English, even though they didn't understand a lot of that. They just really did want their kid to be able to speak the American, to assimilate. And, I see it. I see, high school kids walking home, and, it's all international. There's no one speaking English. It's not no one. Okay, maybe half actually do speak English, but there's just this huge number who, they might be pretty bilingual, but I just mean they're still networked to their home language, and that's the thing they're talking on their cell phone, and that's the thing they're talking to each other, and it's just a bad sign, of this ain't going to work if people aren't going to get fluent in the language of the culture. But anyway, so just making a critique about that somehow that was relevant to something in the video. Just people trying to force the agenda, that the world is going to accommodate all these people who want to be all these different things, and they're just trying to say, look at me, or respect me, or appreciate me, and it's all this high maintenance crap. Sorry, a little interruption. So yeah, it's, the interesting part would be, as for me, to ask every human being. I mean, it'd be nice to interview every human being, and then we could all justify our existence, and it'd be interesting to hear answers to questions like, some of these, probably, I don't know, at least like 25% of these people interviewed on the show are probably ex-cons. Who knows? They've been in trouble with the system. Certainly been on welfare, been on something, assistance, this and that, drug rehabilitation, all of this other crap. And it's very expensive. It's socially very expensive. So it's like this new fad of, the shoplifters and the rest of it. I wish they would just interview them and ask them the question, how do you feel about the fact that you're basically just kicking regular people who go to work every day? You're kicking them in the shin. You're just giving them a welt. They have to pay for your existence, and you're not a fair price. You're really expensive. You're so high maintenance. You're a mess, and you're a really expensive mess, which doesn't, how do you defend your existence? But yeah, you can't drive these people to suicide by, maybe attempting to make them feel a little bit of guilty about how they've raped and pillaged the world. But it's a real subject. I mean, have they taken their failure with it and shown any dignity in accepting responsibility for the fact that they really are a social blight and a pain in the ass, and people might not appreciate having to walk over their poo on the street? No, they don't give a shit. Anyway, yeah. So I mean, the line between victim and perpetrator, it gets very fuzzy, when you with these outsiders, these rebels. Eek. Anyway, so there's some of that in there. I don't know if I don't think I was as harsh as I just was, but anyway. But they really are just, this is just their little desperate wishes to be, blah, blah, blah. And because they can't play the right game, and they're playing this stupid game, they're going, they're drilling holes in the damn lifeboat. And they won't accept that, maybe they're the first thing we should throw to the sharks. Because, fuck, who needs people drilling holes in the boat? They're drug addicts to start with. They're molesters. They're, abusers. They're all disqualified for some reason or other. I don't know what they were disqualified from, but yes, I mean, they'd be disqualified from being bus drivers. They're just reckless and sloppy, and frankly, it shouldn't be celebrated as you're a victim because you're reckless and sloppy. Come on, it doesn't take much to figure out reckless and sloppy. It doesn't take much to know, hey, if I'm stealing stuff from the store, that means everybody else is going to have to pay more. That's not hard to figure out. And 25 votes. That's essentially how it works. You live in one of those puke states. Okay, so I did a little commentary on the Electoral College. Just pointing out that there's all these simple things that can be fixed, and we don't even fix the simple things. There's no hope we're going to fix these more complex problems of all of this social refuse, all of these people, these disabled people, you could call them, that we just don't care about. They're too broken, too difficult. You can't just put them in a wheelchair and say, there, I fixed it, haven't I? It's more complicated than that. Their disability is harder to accommodate, and so we're not going to bother. And that's a social statement that's just really real. Now, I'd say there is the more logical argument that says, well, we could fix it with the simple solution of just preventing people from recklessly procreating, because we know that 90% of this sea of train wreck was foreseeable. I mean, you could see it. You know it was going to happen. It's already a statistical fact. So why are we just allowing the statistical thing to keep happening? Why don't we just put up the quicksand ahead sign? I mean, it's not that complicated to stop it. There's so much more tedious and difficult, I guess. No, it should just be that you're born and you have to become educated. You have to. So civilization just depends on having some sort of standards, and those standards we all should agree on what the standards should be, and it shouldn't be, inbreds. The standards shouldn't be really stupid behavior. The standard should be that every little egg should be raised in a warm incubator, and the little hatchling should have its little fur combed, and every little thing should happen, and if we can't do that, then we're failing, and that should be the definition of failure. So until we fix that, we're failing. We got to fix it. Got to fix it. Got to fix it. So fix it. It's not that difficult. I mean, yes, you have to make a statement that, yes, God isn't in control. We have to be. Because God isn't going to fix it. God's not going to come to the rescue. It's probably as simple as, there's this point where we're capable of detecting, grotesque genetic disorders in fetuses, and people could have the rational choice to not impose horror. And many of them do. And it's just that kind of thing. But it's uncomfortable. It's, it's not the kind of decision anybody wants to have to make. But you have to evolve to the point where it can be made. Stable starting point in life. That their odds of reproducing go way down. All right, so the simple argument is okay, there's a point in the interview where Amanda says, I know we're not winning the argument, but I'm sort of arguing that we've already won the argument. The argument you can have with anybody rational. The only place the argument's lost is in the where the irrational exist, the morons, the retards, the stupid fucks, the parasites, the wretched refuse, okay, that doesn't want to play by any kind of decency rules. They're the ones fucking the game. All right, because the game has essentially been acknowledged by anybody with a little bit of education, acquires knowledge of how, dangerous the world is and how it's really hard to manage, and there's all these conflicting interests, and somebody's going to have to die for anything you want. Okay, you want to build a bridge, somebody probably has to die for you to have the bridge. This kind of crap has to happen. People are going to get sick, and they're going to die, and they're going to get this and that. I mean, it doesn't take much intelligence to realize this just isn't a free or fantastic present, a gift. This is blight, frankly. 5 million subscribers. Just can't figure that out. Yeah, so it's, the fact that I obviously don't, as a subjective, as my sensibilities don't match the average human or the majority human or any of that, well, no big surprise, I guess. But yeah, I sometimes am befuddled to understand why popular channels are popular, because I can't even watch them. They're so stupid. Yeah. Game the psychology wants to play. Alright, so then I moved on to Snake Pliskiness, just because, he's a train wreck currently. And, he's basically, angry and unhappy. Okay. And I don't mean to laugh at that. I just mean that it's but he hasn't, he hasn't figured out that that's inevitable, frankly. There's going to be a point in your life, even if you have everything, where you're going to be angry and unhappy because now you have cancer. The end is always it's rotten ever. I mean, it's not ever after, but it's always going to be a bad ending. There's so few graceful exits. And so you always have to leave humiliating yourself, shitting your pants, tripping. It's always going to be some really humiliating demise is basically what it comes down to. So everything all this pretense of function and, I looked so good and I was stylish and I was cool, and you're going to look like an asshole, when they're carrying you out in the gurney. So, I mean, the game sucks. Let's just get to the real subject. The game of life is just so fucking stupid. There's nothing in it except your addictions. And he's sort of evidence of that too. He's sitting there playing with the drugs and the this and that, the mood alterers, the whatever, the attitude adjustments and all this kind of bullshit, and he's caught up in that, and that should be just so much evidence right there that the game really is unplayable, because you have to do all this bullshit to keep yourself in the mood and interest in just in the image profiles. So I guess I was just talking about, there is a certain art to it, and this is sort of, the triggers are hit in terms of creating atmosphere, and all that does play a role for many people. Something's much more interesting, if the it's like the candlelight is romantic, and the restaurant, and the this and the that, those little things can matter, and they really shouldn't, but they do. These little aesthetic triggers. Going to some happy place, just like food has to look a certain way. If it doesn't look a certain way, you can't eat it. I'm just going to do this, grinding thing until finally all the pleasure is ground out of me, and I'm just desperately waiting to die. And that's where he is now. Yeah, so just making the point that it's a good illustration that it's all about just mood and motivation, and as soon as you lose some delusion, that you're living for, some hope, that's the real, those are hard to get over events that can take place in terms of keeping yourself motivated. And so I could say that happened to me repeatedly, where I just realized, it's just never going to, it's always going to be this. It's always going to be just, waiting for the next problem. And, but then I came upon the endeavor to persevere thing, and realized that's all I can live for that. That can be the game I'm playing. Endeavor to persevere. So now instead of playing life for what I can get out of it, I'm just playing it to endeavor to persevere. Just survive. Live to fight another day, and that's all there is. And as long as you know you're fighting for something, then there's enough purpose in that to keep you interested in seeing the sun rise another day. Because it's another day where you could grasp opportunity when it knocks. There is to it. And, if you're enjoying yourself, you're a pig. And if you're catastrophically distracted by the horror, you're a pussy. So just trying to qualify the pigeonholes that are just pointless. But there's a truth to it, that there's no way to play the game, because to play it and find it gratifying or satisfying, you're going to have to be an asshole. And if you're not an asshole, then it's really a dark and bleak struggle to get through it without your little heart getting broken numerous times. Old days ain't gonna happen anymore. There's no medium for it anymore. There's no software that really makes that happen. It's probably something I am complaining about, but I won't bother with that. Just the idea of how to have an argument, I guess. So I was reading some comments, and there was a couple of just so stupid comments. Anyway, Jesus. Why should we not just remain? Because, we already know the answer. Because it's stupid. Because torture is bad, okay? It's a waste of, that's pretty much the word. Okay, so that wasn't tough. Why shouldn't we just keep things exactly as they are? Because it's the perfect definition of failure. All right. Never contemplating the meaning of any of it, never having an intelligent thought, philosophical thought, let's just say. So it's about animals, and the fact that the ocean has evolved and there's nothing there. Okay, there's no philosophy, there's no philosophers, there's no anything. Take the whales and the dolphins and even the sea turtles out, and what do you got left? Shark. It's not a smart place doing smart things. It's a horrid place where 99.9% of the things born die in a few minutes and just have to go through the process all over again. It's just a terrible, horrible waste of suffering. And only a sicko, a sick, mangalest, sadistic lunatic could vote for it. You're confused. It's the whole idea of happily ever after, right? So, I was just talking about that was one of those little moments in life, where, somewhere 7, 8, who knows where, I said, what the fuck is that? This Disneyland ending. You watch movies, you watch shows, and it's always ending with some idea that, everything went just fine after that. They walk off into the sunset, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then I realized wait a minute, no, that's not how reality works. Reality is, you know, a dog attacks you and chews your arm off, and then you have to live with one arm for the rest of, you know, all this horror and shit happens. Shit happens. It's not happily ever after, it's shit after. Crap. Yuck. Nasty bits ever after. So, you really are totally ignorant. You really are an ignorant person. So yes, you wrote it. So it's a really dumb comment, but you know, defending glib indifference, and yeah, it's just like, wow, you really have to be stupid, you know, not to account for all these questions that need us to answer them, and to get the right answers and do the right thing. The fact is, it's a real brick wall. The fact is, it's a real torture that's at stake. You know, there can be a lot of it or there can be a little of it, and that's what we can control. And to not control it is dastardly. It's a dastardly thing to think you shouldn't have an opinion on controlling it. Because of course you should. If you're going to survive it, you have to be unfair to some facts somewhere. Yeah, so it's just a sort of vague reference to how you have to, you know, if you're going to be smart, you're going to see all the horror, you have to have some mechanism to defend yourself against it, not get swallowed up by it. So you have to in some way not let it get to you. You know, and that's sort of being unfair, because it should get to you, and that's the hardest part for me doing this, is having to figure out how to accept what all the stuff I can't do anything about, and you know, I can't even guarantee any success at all, and you know, that's discouraging. But again, the statement that I know there's no other better fight to fight, and there's no other better utility, you know, thing to be focused on, that this is the answer and it's the only answer, and if you don't do it, who will? So those sort of statements have to be all you live by. Alright, anyway, so if you are a newcomer, I'd say last week's video was a better video, just because it's, you know, it really gives you the, you know, it smacks you pretty hard with the evolution argument, and that's what made us. And so that's the part where you have to really understand it and get it, that it's broken right from the core. But anyway, it is an unplayable game, and you're just pretending, if you're imagining some way it can be played well, and with any dignity or beauty, because it really can't. It's maggots all the way down. But anyway, okay, enough stated. So this has been another donotgod.com video presentation on the inmendham channel. I guess we could say that. And such. I mean, it would be the Do Not God channel, but YouTube prohibited that channel. It just annihilated it because it just didn't like it. Didn't like the sound of it. Alright, so till the next time, and such, and so forth and whatnot. Yeah.